Oh boy, freaking this game was so damn great. Oh man, it was way too long, Kitty. It was way too long. It took me over 100 hours to beat it, and I'm like, am I like going too slow, or am I like really stretching it out? No, no. Apparently, that's the average runtime is 100 damn hours, at least for the definitive version. That's the one I played, and as someone who's a big fan of Baldur's Gate, this game really clicks those buttons. Now, unlike Baldur's Gate, which is a pause in between the fights, you know, pausing every time you want to, this was strictly turn-based, and so it's sort of got this big kind of almost puzzle drawn out feeling that like this Gaia or Final Fantasy Tactics will have, because you need to use your Brian against this shit, because this is some intricate, wicked shit. Look at all the damn buttons and shit at the bottom. All the skills you have to come up with, you have to manage, and then it's just got this kind of, I don't know. It's like this bizarre armor system that's unique to this game, and I do not remember this being in the original Sin Part 1, which was a 10 out of 10 game, by the way. Definitely 2 paws up from the kittens, but in this one, you have to worry about these armors. So you have like a mana type armor and a physical armor, and so what you need to do is that you gotta drop these armors down to actually damage a person. Once you've dropped those armors down, they still have a pretty good sized life bar, but then and only then does all of your like character control, stun, status ailments and stuff like that start kicking in. And so, you know, you have a chicken thing. You can just turn a monster into a chicken for 2 rounds, and they really can't do anything besides run around. It's devastating as fuck. But you can't use that chicken until you drop the physical armor on the character. And what this generally does is that you're going to try to focus in specific damage types to try to drop the character's physical or magical shield, then drop a sort of a status ailment on them, and then move on to the other enemies you got to do, and then try to do the same thing for them. And so you're carefully trying to manage the character who's being stun locked while you work on the other characters, because generally that's the fastest thing, because there's a very the enemies feel really tanky, at least to me. Now, I used more of a turtle-y type characters, had like 3 wizards with shields essentially, and so maybe that if you went completely all in on 2-handed weapon, that you would probably be able to, you know, smash faster than I did. My bow character, Iffin, was very damn good. He was my highest damage dealer, so I'm gonna suspect that maybe if you went full on with the 2-handed weapon, maybe you would get some big damage in. But the problem was the game. And this is very much like the original, I mean, this guy as well. The enemies will focus in on the character with the least hit points. And so if you have sort of a glass cannon type character, they will freaking go all out to try to get them. There's spells and stuff they use to try to get, like, increase your maximum armor. You want to decrease your shields, because as soon as your shields drop, just like you and the enemies both said the same things, you will get, you know, you'll get crowd controlled, and you're freaking just, you know, can't do shit. And so, to me, I went real shieldy. I try to get as much initiative. There's a points in the initiative that allow you to go before the enemies, because it's very important to try to get to this sequence where you're starting to drop around the effectiveness of the enemies before they get to you, because they will fuck you up, man. At least on classic difficulties, which I played. But the combat is so good, and I really liked the uniqueness to it. Now, I know that there's players out there that are not happy with how the armor-based combat works, because it kind of forces you into concentrating on, you know, at one enemy at a time with all of your characters. And so the original Divinity Original Sin was really wizard-based, because you would had all of these poops and stuff you throw. I call it poop, but you throw a bunch of shit on the ground, and it fucks with the enemy AI. You can't really figure out how to get around it, and it just causes so much damage. And what was so awesome about that game is just carried over here is that you could take this this stuff, like, you know, say you have you've casted rain and the ground's wet. then you could cast like a blizzard spell on the ground and it would make the ground freeze. So enemies who would run over that ground would fall down. There would be a high chance of falling down. And you could use these combinations to do just ridiculous amounts of shit. And I think a lot of players were not happy that all of this combination goop of putting poop on the ground and stuff was not truly as effective because of the armors. The armors would often protect the enemies from all of this shit until you broke their armor. But I personally liked it. It's tough though. You need to make smart decisions, real smart. He's like, you need to decide clearly. He's like, I'm breaking this fucker's down physical, and then I'm going to telekinesis his ass next to me and then cast chicken on him. And speaking of teleport and telekinesis, that stuff was so freaking great in the original Sin 1. And it's so good now that practically all of my characters freaking had the ability to teleport enemies, because to put them where you want them, to position them next to the other guys so that you could use a double spell on them or something like that. It's so freaking fundamental to the game. Or just be used to just break the fuck out of the damn game. You've got a big, huge boss enemy who's about to go, and 1 or 2 turns, he's like, oh man, this motherfucker's about to whoop my ass. He's got all his armor and shit. Well, let me just teleport his ass across the fucking room. There was one time where you're fighting a shark, and I teleported him on the land, and the shark died. I mean, it makes sense, right? It does make sense. If he's in the water, he can't do nothing. But all of this cheese ball kind of shit that you need to do, honestly, to survive some of the fights, at least on Classic, because it's so rough. I love that shit. I relish just cheaping the enemy. In this fight right here, the boss enemy was boosted about 4 little, I don't know, totems or whatever. I would call them totems that boosted him up. And so I would cause damage to the totem or whatever, and then run up the steps to make the enemy weaker. It's kind of shit like that you really need to do. And I live for that kind of crap. I live for that damn this guy a bullcrap gameplay, man. It's so good. It's so fun. And while more traditional players are like, man, I've found all my stuff. I've done great. I'm right level, and I'm still getting cheated by this enemy. But I don't like it. You got to out cheat the enemies. What you got to do? You got to out cheese it. You can sit there between some fights, and there's a point where you could. There was a boulder spell. You threw a boulder, it landed, and it dropped oil everywhere. I would fill the whole damn screen up with that oil shit. You could light the oil on fire and make half the fucking game on fire, but I didn't do that. What normally I did is just leave it in there, because the enemy has to walk through that oil. He's slow as fuck, and so he'd either walk through that and waste his turn trying to get to me, or he'd try to walk around it, which would be even worse. Or often, if you could just put poop right next to a ladder or a climbing spot, the enemy's like, man, I'm not going to use this climbing spot. It was all kind of shit exploits that you would do to do the game, because it's so hard to play legit. I mean, a straight up regular fight. No, it's like, be a dick. It's like, freaking be a bastard. And do stuff like summon up my summon allies and boosted him before you talk to whoever you need to talk to and do some fights. My main complaint with the combat is that there's enough gimmick fights there that piss you off. There'll be fights that have special rules where you need to fight a special character, or somebody shows up in the middle of the fight, and you might be fighting for an hour. You're doing your best. The final boss, I was fighting for nearly an hour, and then the final boss really actually appeared, and I'm like, well, and then he killed me in like 2 moves. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? So prep is a lot, and it's so freaking good. It's so fun. And I've just spent 9 minutes talking about combat, because the combat is so awesome in this game. But there's more to it than that. There's tons more to it. The loot is freaking great. The progression is pretty unique and very great. There's tons of crazy broken shit you can do if you go in and work with your progression. Stuff that I didn't hardly even bother with. The loot's freaking amazing. The quests they're pretty fun. There's a couple of areas. The second main area of the game where I think there's kind of just some busy work quests, but you do need it. You do need it as you drop to a new area of the game. I think there's like 4 acts. You're usually under leveled for the average enemies on the level, so you've got to get out there and get some of the busy work quests to start getting ahead of it. And that was very fun. Now, there's also multiple ways through skills. I mean, or things. It's kind of. I've heard that the game speed run for this game is under an hour. I don't doubt it because there's you've got tons of extra quests you don't have to do, but damn sure if I'm not going to do them, especially when the enemies are this tough, I needed to stay leveled with the enemies. I was level 20 when I beat the game, and I think that's where the enemies are too. But that shit's so fun. I would say the only real flaw, the major flaw to this game was the story didn't do anything particularly about me. It's like you're trying to be the new divine, and you know the gods are trying. There's a particular gods out of the 7 is supposed to have, I don't know. I didn't give a shit about the story honestly, and I think at the very end I just sided honestly with the bad guys for it to be easier for me to win, sell my soul out for the victory, and maybe it was with my particular controls, but when you would talk to people and you're doing important story moments, you would zoom out like the way this battle is right here. You would zoom out, and then it didn't really grab me. And then they've done a much better job from the original Divine Divinity Original Sin. That's like double original, whatever. They've done a much better job getting you the actual player characters more fleshed out. And it's to the point where you had 4 characters, and but you didn't have to make your own character. And so I'm like, I wanted to experience the 4 side character stories. I don't really give a fuck about my own, created character. And so I went with the Red Prince, Eddie, and then I went with Losa, and then Ibn, and Fane, and Losa had a pretty good story, and I thought the Red Prince had a good story. I didn't particularly... Maybe I missed parts of Fane's. I didn't really care for Fane's too much. It seemed dumb. And then, I might have missed stuff from there. I didn't really grab to me. Maybe if you was... you pick one of them as your main character. Maybe it would meant more if it happened then, but just... They didn't click with me, even though I thought that the actual personalities were good. And there's 2 other characters. There's like a dwarf and like an emo elf girl. I'm hoping that with Baldur's Gate 3 they get that story part. I already know that they have special cutscenes that look more like KOTOR or The Witcher 3. So it's up close, and so hopefully that would be the main flaw that they have. And then honestly, the other flaw is these turn-based battles take for fucking ever, man. And there's no way that they can't. They're designed to take forever. You need to plot out and plan for a large battle. They try to keep, the weak enemies. There's not too many of them. Most of the battles are important, and they have a story to them and all that other good shit, or a setup. There's like a set piece for each fight. But I recommend this game to anybody. It's rough though. This shit is not easy. Well, maybe it is if you just play it on normal. If you're like a Baldur's Gate veteran, or if you've been playing a lot of strategy RPGs, maybe playing this shit on Classic, because I had a lot of fun with it on Classic. Otherwise, stick to the regular difficulties, because this is a beast, man. This will fuck you up. It'll make you feel stupid, and it'll make you feel brilliant when you come up with some shit to damn teleport the guy right in the right corner or whatever it is, and then teleport another guy in front of him so he wastes his turn because he's stuck. All of that kind of bullshit you can do. And I can't wait for Baldur's Gate 3. Well, I'm going to wait till it's done. Fuck this early access shit, but I want to give a good shout out to Lord Humans McBrien, who got me this. He seems to only get me giant fucking games. He got me The Witcher 1 and 2 as well. Yeah, Brian, why do you make me play these fucking 1,000-hour games that you ain't gonna play? But that's alright. That's alright. Big Kitty's throwing the paw way up. The graphics are great. The friggin' sound's great. The music is outstanding. The story was a little weak, but we still liked it. And Brian's all about that freaking combat, man. That combat is stellar in this game, and it makes it a must play.